Hello folks, I am back with another firearms review, and I'm just used to really having Glocks as striker firearms, and lately I've been venturing out and getting out of my comfort zone. And right now what I have before you is the new CZ P-10F. And the F, of course, since there are a lot of videos out there, means the full-size version of the P-10C. And of course there is the P-10S, I believe that's the subcompact model. Let me just safety check this. And my apologies, the gun is dirty because I just got back from the range. What I'm going to give you is a little bit of specs about this firearm. And if you notice, this is not the optic ready version. This is the regular version with the 3-dot combat sights. They're luminescent from my understanding. I haven't really been able to check that out as of yet. So it is a 9mm, of course. It's polymer. Has a capacity of 19 plus 1. And, of course, you know it's a striker-fired firearm. Coal hammer forged barrel. The barrel length is going to be 4.5 inches and with a width of 1.26 inches. The weight is 28.2 ounces, which is kind of surprising. I'll explain that later. The overall length is going to be 8 inches. Kind of looks like a boomerang to me when you have the smaller grips on. It looks like a boomerang, but it is what it is. It has a firing pin, block safety, trigger safety, which we all know from Glocks and other firearms. The trigger is 4.5 to 5 pound trigger pull with a short reset. And let me just show you that reset there. Here it is. You got your you have your take up right here. There's that take up. And then you hit a defined wall right here and you pull. And then that's your trigger pull right there. Now, as far as your reset goes, reset is nice and crisp and audible. And then that's your reset. And let me extend my finger out again. Here you go. There's your safety dingus here. And you pull the trigger. There's that distance. You don't hear any rough sounds in it, like a gritty sound. It just goes straight back. You pull the trigger. And there it is. And then next thing you know, you release for your short reset, and that's it. It's a very short reset in a striker firearm, and it helps with you getting back on target. And when you're firing at the range, it gets you, once you release that, and you know where your reset is, and then you could just fire the other rounds afterwards. Like I said earlier, this is not the optic ready version. This is the version that has the luminescent sights, and this particular version is made in the Czech Republic that you see right here. The optic ready versions are made in, I believe that's Kansas City, Kansas, in the U.S. So this is the Czech-made version. Some things that I like about this, I've never owned or never shot the P-10C. A lot of people have complained, from what I hear, about the grip texture. Some people would have their hands chewed up. And I guess on this version, I think the people heard, the people at CZ heard about that, and they must have did something with their checkering. Some people still complain about the checkering, but as far as this shooter goes, I'm not complaining about the checkering. It originally came with the small, the medium backstrap. I like the larger backstrap, the largest backstrap, because it helps me to get my hand way up into where the bore axis is, so I'll be able to have a steady grip and get as high as I can on the firearm. Yeah, like I was saying about, there were some complaints about the grip texture. The other thing that was a big complaint was the magazine release. I believe that on the P-10C there was the mag release was ambidextrous, and the problem with that was that it would work on one side and didn't work on the other, or it was very hard to push out, and it would work. It was just a little bit of a problem. A lot of people were complaining about it. On this particular model, they only made it on one side, but it is swappable. The only thing that I see that's ambidextrous on this is basically your slide stop here. And your slide stop is ambidextrous here. And there's a little trick with these slide stops, which I found out from another YouTuber. Usually, if you have a round in the chamber, you could use a slide stop on either side and you won't have a hard time pulling that down. The trick is, if you don't have the magazine in, your slide stop drops like this very easily. Now, I'll do that again on the left side. It's a little bit hard to press with the magazine in at this point. You take your magazine out and you notice it drops very easily. Now, if you have a loaded magazine, you're not going to have a problem with bringing the slide down at all. Once you have that magazine in, you can click that forward. For some reason, when you have the magazine in and it's empty, it doesn't work like I demonstrated. That's not an issue, so don't even panic about it. One of the other great features I like about this, I'm going to see if it will work with snap caps right now. I'm not sure if it will work or you have to have live rounds. What it is you load a most likely when you have the magazine loaded. I'm just going to put maybe 3 snap caps. Let me just be greedy and just put 5 in here. And this is just for testing's sake, so I'm doing this right on camera so you'll see it. Usually when you're at the range, the magazine, the slide, after you're finished firing, the magazine goes empty, your slide goes back. You put a fresh round in, and you could just put the magazine in, but depending on how hard you hit it, let's see if I can do this without knocking anything over. It didn't work that time, but it did work before with live rounds, mind you. But when I was at the range, when you have a full magazine, you put that magazine in, you slam that in, your slide will go forward automatically. It's not going to work with snap caps, and I'm not going to use live rounds on here for safety's sake on here. I never put live rounds when I'm filming for these reviews. But there was a guy, he used live rounds, and he showed on camera all you had to do, as long as you have a magazine that's full with some amount of rounds, he put the magazine in. He was able to slap it, and the slide just shot forward. And I found that as an interesting feature on this firearm. There's some firearms that do that. I know the earlier Smith & Wesson M&Ps used to do that, and a couple other firearms might do it. But it's a good feature to have on this particular firearm to charge a round. Okay, continuing on, let's just break this down because I found some things interesting when I broke this down. It's normal takedown, like as if you had a Glock, pull back, and it comes off very easily. What I found interesting is that it's very simple to break this down. As you saw the slide, and you bring this down. But just before we get any further, I notice on this barrel here, everything's kind of beefed up right here. If you look here and here, where the barrel connects with the frame, the locking lug. I mean, this is really, really beefed up over here. And when you take the barrel out, again, I just finished shooting this. Look how beefed up this is. I believe the Glocks are pretty much considerably smaller with this, the way this is out here. And it's really beefed up, really sturdy. And if you look at the feed ramp here, it's pretty, it looks like a regular feed ramp, which it is, but it looks wider and beefed up more. And I think that helps it aid in reliability. I shot 200 rounds with this as soon as I got it, and there were no jams, no malfunctions, fed everything, ate everything. And I usually don't like to use cheaper ammo or anything like that, but it fed it very well with no issues. As you see here, this is pretty much like a traditional striker firearm when it comes to the rails. Usually with CZ, they're mostly known for their inverted rails. So you don't have that in this case, but it is incredibly flat shooting. And if you look in the back here, a lot of your firearms have the plunger, the safety plunger. Their safety mechanisms are a little bit different in this area here. So there is a fire pin block safety. It's all internal here. I don't know the specifics on it, but this is possibly part of your safety mechanisms over here. Let me see. When you look at your frame here, inside your frame, it's big. It's not like your standard, to me, like your standard striker firearms. It's really big. There's your rails are they look thin right here, but they're absolutely long going this way. And I believe that it just enables for the motion of the slide to go backwards and forwards upon recoil without any type of malfunctions. And that's what you want. You want a firearm that's going to be working pretty much flawlessly. You're going to have your moments with some firearms, but this is one of those firearms that are going to really show its reliability. Let me get this in the right spot here so I can put this back together. This is why I don't usually put things back together on camera. I don't want to look like a doofus. And I think that's pretty much okay. We'll find out. But like I said, there's this area here. It's really beefed up. They really look like they were really trying to make this a tough and durable product. Okay, now let me just continue putting this back together. And yeah, got this. One of the other things I noticed about this particular firearm is the serrations over here. They're very grippy, good serrations for those who like to press check or probably even rack from there. Also, the rear serrations are pretty much the same. They're very grippy. No problems with that. Of course, it kept some of the design of, let's say, I believe it's the P-09, where it has like how the slide is made. And this is not just only for decoration, it's also help for the weight. So when the slide reciprocates, you have a smooth action. So a lot of times we look at firearms and look at things that appear to be decorations. There's sometimes there's a reasonable purpose for that. I seen on other videos that there's a loaded chamber indicator. Now, if you look very closely here, there's a little lip right here. If you put your fingernail right here, when they said loaded chamber indicator, I didn't know if they meant whether or not there was a little red mark, or like on some of the firearms, they have like a little red tab that's on the side. So again, this is a snap cap, and I'm gonna rack that. And as you see, it does stick out a bit right here. And a lot of people say, well, I can't see it, but basically you can feel that. So if it's nighttime, you'll be able to feel this particular part of the extractor sticking out. How does this firearm shoot? Well, this firearm shoots extremely well. Like I said before, I'm not really into a lot of striker fire. I'm very adept with the Glock striker fire pistols, and I get a little nervous when I get ready to pick up another type because I'm so used to Glocks. And recently I purchased a VP9, and I love the triggers on that. And this trigger is no slouch at all itself. This trigger is really outstanding. One thing it has better than the Glock triggers, there's no, where the safety dingus is, it pretty much goes completely flat, and it goes right into the side of the trigger here, so it pretty much disappears. So when your finger is on there, it feels like you're not even feeling that that trigger at all. So that's one of the good pluses with that. This firearm is with this particular trigger, the firearm's better than I am. Let's put it that way. The trigger it's like a 4.5 to 5 pound trigger, and it's only going to get better as I keep firing it. But as you're pulling the trigger, you have that take up that I showed you before, and then that reset. Once you fire that round, you're back on target immediately. And as always, I'm going to show you what I did with my targets. Okay, here are my targets, and I'm going to try to, and unfortunately, I don't have the order in which I shot them, because I went from the top target to the bottom, and then to the third target. So it just went back and forth. So usually people like to show their first shots. So I was going from, let's say, the top, the middle, and then the bottom. But on the first one, the targets are, matter of fact, this is at 10 yards. All these targets are at 10 yards. As you see here, I did pretty well. Was just trying to find myself around these shots to see how the sight picture was. And the sight picture with those particular sights, I know people complain about 3-dot. They want the sights to have blacked out rears and with a red optic, and like a red fiber optic in the front. Well, this is just a 3-dot sight. And lining them up, it's just point of aim. In point of aim, I was doing pretty well here. Was trying to figure out my point of aim before I got to the center. So that's what you see here, where the shot is really high here, or it's a little low here. And then you have a group here. And I finally got pretty much on target where I want to be. The middle target, still exploring again where I want to be. And it's pretty much the same information as that. Right here, I was aiming a little lower. Again, trying to work out on how this target is to work. And as you see, went off the target. Now, on this particular target, I was trying to do a little bit of rapid fire, but I was trying to keep all my shots within the 8 ring. And rapid fire, I don't think I did too bad until They got the little flyer here. But it's so easy to get your sight picture back, and that's how I was able to get these targets the way I wanted them to be. And again, like I said, this is 10 yards, and this is a smaller target than what I'm used to using. They ran out of my usual targets, which are a little bigger, so we're talking about a smaller target at 10 yards, so it makes everything look a little farther away. So as you see, this firearm is a really, really good shooter. And if I were someone to say if they want a full-size firearm or a duty firearm, if you're working security or something like that, you have a lot of firepower with 19+1, and you have the accuracy, the durability, and you have the quality that that CZ always is known for. This particular firearm, when I walked in just to look, this was at a bargain. It was at a steal. These are very, very reasonably priced. The price is anywhere between $450, and depending on if you get the one with the optic ready, would go up to about $580. This was around $470, so I really pretty much came out with a bargain there. And we all know it comes in the case, but I always like to show my little favorite section here. Don't ask me why. I always get happy when I see these, and I think more manufacturers should do that, because it pretty much proves that they are testing these firearms, and that they are testing them, and they're sending them out to the general public, that they're letting the consumer know that they are testing and trying to give you the best product possible. Real quick here, this is going to be where the crosshairs are. That's going to be your point of aim, and the dark spot is the mean, what they call the mean point of impact. So they're expecting it to impact over there, but in this case, the impacts were where those 3 circles are, and they only did 3 shots. Usually I would see these targets, they're usually about 5 shots, so they went back to. And it was at 25 meters from what I'm reading up here. Well, that's pretty much all I have for now about this firearm. I'm going to be shooting this a lot. And like I said, if you want a really good striker firearm that's not a Glock or not a HK or anything like that, the CZ P-10 series is a good series to go with, whether you're going with the S, the C, or the F. It's just a good series of firearms. So that's all I have, folks. So happy shooting, #2A.